Hello, everyone. I'm Janice Dean, and you are listening to the Janice Dean Podcast on the Fox News Podcast Network. This is such an exciting project for me because radio is how I first started out in my career, believe it or not. My first job out of college was a weekend field reporter doing something called The Sun Scoop, where I would go to various different community events around my hometown of Ottawa, Canada, and broadcast live. So if you had a picnic or a car wash or a charity event, I would be there on location talking about the day's events and what the weather was like. People ask how I got my start doing TV weather, and I would say it kind of began with the Sun Scoop all those years ago. And later on during my career, I used to fill in for the local meteorologist when he would go on vacation. So here we are all these years later, and it's kind of a full circle moment. So what can you expect with this podcast? I see it as a longer version of the daily feature I do every day called the Dean's List, a good news story that focuses in on a person or something that deserves attention because it makes the world a better place. I wrote a book a few years ago called Make Your Own Sunshine, which was an extension of the Dean's List, featuring stories of wonderful people doing kind things for others. Things like buying a stranger a cup of coffee in line, to writing lunchbox jokes for your kids, or bringing groceries to an elderly neighbor. Sometimes it only takes a few seconds to turn a person's day around for the better. And that's exactly what my plan is for this podcast. I'm also hoping to hear your suggestions for interviews or segments via social media. I'm very active on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, so that's one of the ways I hope to get all of you involved as well. Maybe you can nominate someone for the Dean's List or tell me about a wonderful thing that happened to you that you want to share with our audience, and I can't wait to hear all of your ideas. I also want to interview some of my favorite people you see on Fox, asking them questions that maybe no one has ever asked them. Secret talents or hobbies. So many people ask me about certain personalities at Fox when I'm on location, and I always say if I didn't love what I do and who I work with, I wouldn't be here for almost 20 years. I've got a whole list of Fox friends to talk to, and I know you will love them even more than you do seeing them on TV or hearing them on the radio. So without further ado, here is my interview with the one and only Brian Kilmeade. He's not only the co-host of Fox and Friends, host of the Brian Kilmeade Show on talk radio, and of course my buddy, but he is also the very first person to officially make my Dean's List on the Janice Dean Podcast. Brian Kilmeade, you made the Dean's List.
How?
This is my official podcast.
Right.
You are the first guest.
Right.
And what my plan is not only to interview people about good news stories,
right,
people doing good things for others.
You want to hear bad news stories?
I'm going to feature some of my friends
right,
from Fox to be on the Dean's List. But because you've been a good friend of mine for such a long time,
right,
I figured that you would be the first person to ask for an interview for my podcast, the Janice Dean Podcast, and the fact that you have now made the Dean's List.
Well, that's great. I do have my own sources because I'm a journalist by trade. I became number one when Steve Doocy turned you down, right? I mean, that. And let's be honest.
I have no response to that, really. You are my official. Listen, when I thought of this program and what I wanted to do to bring
right,
people on the podcast is to get to know people behind the scenes. And the
right,
first person I thought of, and I'm not lying,
really? I'm
not just blowing sunshine up your skirt. I wanted to get to know you.
You did?
I did.
Because you only know the TV me or the radio me.
That's kind of true.
Right.
Now, you and I talk in the morning very early when we see each other. We're sort of like two ships passing in the night at 3 a.m.
And can I say, I always feel bad when I say it, talk about the weather, because with anybody else, I feel like that's...
No, that's okay. It's okay
sure?
coming from you.
Okay.
Because then you ask me other questions.
Right.
Like, you know...
Do people always say that to you in the hall? Like, what's the weather?
Some people.
I'm going to Wisconsin.
Well, here's the thing. Now, you're interviewing me, and that's not supposed to be happening, but I will tell you this. The people that I know that are genuinely nice, and most people in this building are nice, I don't mind giving them a forecast, but it's the ones I don't know, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I'm going to my vacation home in South Carolina. Can you give me the forecast for next weekend?
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have USA Today? Go at your color map. Go get it yourself.
It's happened. Well, that's when I usually now say, go to foxweather.com.
Right. And that's what you say to Hammer. Right? I mean, pretty much.
Okay, this is off the rails. I'm supposed to be interviewing you, and I knew this was going to happen because a lot of people don't know behind the scenes Brian Kilmeade.
Right.
And that's why I'm doing this, because our listeners want to know you behind the scenes. I know you're at work most of the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me all the shows that what time do you get in the morning?
What time do I get into this building?
Yes.
I would say I am here 3:50.
Okay. What time
you beat me to the building.
I do, but I'm on at 5 a.m.
Right.
You probably have more prep than I do.
I have a lot of prep.
Yeah. Do you do that in the car on your way in?
Most valuable time.
Really?
Most valuable time.
You don't get car sick? Because I can't look at my phone when I'm in the car.
If I got car sick, I would have to move into the city because I would have no choice, because it is the most valuable time, because I'm cutting out sound bites, putting them here.
You're cutting the sound bites?
No. I'm just cutting and pasting the verbates.
Okay, got it.
And then you put them on this side, and then you put your category. You have like 6 categories. Then you go, okay, what's the most important? Then you watch in the news. You're like, okay, this clearly is the biggest deal. And then you watch. I always watch the repeat of World News Tonight on
ABC
with David Muir.
Yep.
And then I watch Fox and Friends first to see what they lead with. And I kind of get the sense of what should happen with the radio show where you're at right now.
When do you turn your mind off of the news?
I don't think I do.
You don't?
Right. Because I don't think you can. How many times do you walk around and people go, oh, you hear about that shooting? Oh, did you hear about, I cannot believe Biden did that. I can't believe Trump said that again. And what are you talking about? You take 45 minutes off and all of a sudden you're behind the 8 ball.
And you've been doing that for 26 years now.
For news, yes.
What did you do before this?
I was lonely. Because I have very few friends.
Stop it. That's not true.
I was doing all sports, new sport, TV,
okay. Yep.
Which was now defunct, owned by NBC and Cablevision, 24-hour sports news, which was ESPN, now made ESPN News, came out with that after, perhaps because of that. Mm-hmm. But it was able to do that and just do 100 stories a week.
Do you miss the sports?
Sometimes, but not really. I mean, the last thing I want to do, for example, I love the fact that the Yankees are 52-23. It's a great story, right? But do I want to go cover a Yankee game 4 days a week where you walk into a locker room and they don't really want to talk to you? But it's
Brian Kilmeade. Of course they're going to want to talk to you.
Right. I think it would be easier to walk in now as opposed to with Sports Phone when you're 22 and have a microphone that you can't really afford a mic cube, and you walk in with your tape recorder and you ask Paul O'Neill what it felt like to hit 3 home runs. I've never asked a question to Paul O'Neill where he thought, that was a good question.
Who is that?
That's a problem. Paul O'Neill's an outstanding outfielder for the Yankees.
Okay.
And I would say, for example, Derek Jeter would be somebody who answers every question, but never interestingly.
Oh.
Because he never wants to get caught.
So he's not on the Dean's list next week.
Right. But A-Rod is a favorite because he always would give more thoughtful, provocative answers.
Interesting.
Right? I mean, there's people that you interview, like, why does Lindsey Graham always on all these shows? Because he's put thought into things. He'll say to you, I'm going to make news today.
Huh.
Like, you have athletes who are now told not to make news. So that's the part. They don't want to be the person.
You like to break news.
I would like to do stuff that's interesting as opposed to what I'm going to do is take it one day at a time, and we're going to hope to put a few wins together, and if we can win a championship, we'll hope to win another. That doesn't do anything.
But don't you think that part of your life has led you to where you are now? Like you take some of those experiences and go, you know what, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you can go out into the field, and you know this because you just left. You just were out doing the hot dog eating contest or the horse racing or the dog show, and you got to go do a feature on it. Okay, you go do a bunch of live hits. Okay, do a package. Mm-hmm. If you go do those other things, you know how much harder reporters work than anchors.
Yep.
Because reporters out in the field work like heck to get a 90-second or a 2-minute 30, in ARC's case, maybe 4.5 minute.
Yep.
And you got to knock it down. You got to see the bridge. You got to see the open. Do I need a stand-up? Do I need a close? And how are these going to fit together? And this is interesting, but it's not going to help my package. You got to move on. You learn all that by getting paid way too little to work way too long.
And you have an appreciation for all of those jobs as well.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely do. And I think I got to watch, let's say Mike Emanuel do a story on Brett Baer's show. So Brett Baer's doing a show. You know, Mike Emanuel was out in the field all day to knock it down to 97, or Mark Meredith to 90 seconds to get it moving. But it sets you up for those 7-minute panel conversations, kind of the way our channel works.
Okay, hi, Fox fans.
Hi.
You know Carly Shimkus. We're here in our office, and I met Carly in the elevator. We were talking about my brand new podcast, which, of course, happened this week. Very exciting.
The Janice Dean Podcast.
But the thing is, I don't even know how to download it. So I asked Carly to come into my office to show us, all of us here, how to do it. Okay, Carly?
You're going to want to download her podcast. So first of all you have to do is go to foxnewspodcast.com.
That's right, foxnewspodcast.com.
And you're going to see something, you're going to see this screen. It looks exactly like this.
Yep.
And then you're going to see Janice Dean's picture right there, right? So you hit listen and /subscribe.
Okay.
And then you're going to get listen on, and it's going to have all these different things. One of them's Spotify, one of them's iHeart. I'm going to do it through the Apple Podcast, which is like the purple icon right here.
Yep.
So you click it and it like redirects to your app.
Technology.
Directly. And then all you have to do, that's what you're going to see. You go up to the top right. There's that little X right there.
Oh, yeah.
You click it.
Okay.
You are
It's a plus sign, I
subscribed,
think.
my friends.
A plus sign?
Yes.
Or is it an X?
X
X marks the spot.
tomato. Plus sign.
Okay,
that sounds
good.
more positive.
That's all we have to do.
Yes.
Carly, you're amazing.
Unsubscribe for life.
I love it. And you know what else? It's free.
It is.
And we'll spread the sunshine.
We will.
You're the best, Carly. Mwah.
Bye.